moving on to the big slate. Speaking of the Eagles and Dolphins, the Dolphins go to Philly. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites right now. I expect this line to move a little bit, but Eagles are 2.5-point home favorites. The total is 53 points. Definitely the highest on the slate, as expected in two premier offenses. But this isn't Philly. It will be a tough task for the Dolphins to go in there and beat it and get around an angry Philadelphia crowd. Now, if we go in here and we look at some of the betting splits, we can see some behavior. Again, it's earlier in the week, so this isn't set in stone, but we can really see what people are doing on early on in the week and see if we can catch some trends or not. 52% of the tickets are on the Dolphins, but 83% of the money of the handle is on the Eagles. So it seems like there's some big money coming in on the Eagles right now. I will wait to drop our model projections for this game and throw in some stats. Brendan, who do you like in this game and why?
Yeah, so this spread starting out at 2.5, and the Eagles being at home and the Eagles having a little bit better defense than the Dolphins, I'm going to take the Eagles 2.5, coming off a game that they're all pissed off about. And I'm not very confident about it, but that's what I'm going to do. I think it'll be a close game. A-Chain's still on IR, but the Eagles have a pretty bad run defense. Am I correct about that so far?
The Eagles, historically, last year they had a really bad run defense, but they've gotten it together this year. They've really put it together. They have the second best team in terms of rushing yards allowed per game. So really put it like they've cleaned up a little bit on the defensive front. They're 6th overall in yards per carry allowed. And I think that's more attributed to the teams that they've played and how they've been ahead in the game. They kind of abandon the run nowadays. So what the Eagles have done is they've kind of throttled teams. They get ahead. Teams abandon the run. And that's kind of where these numbers bake in. This team, you can run on them. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You know, the numbers, they tell a story that may not be entirely true. So you certainly can run on them.
Well, Mostert has been running the ball really well, and Jeff Wilson I would expect to play a lot more coming off IR this week. And they just got a bunch of really fast dudes, and they'll run all the lateral routes and get Waddle and Tyreek open. So, I mean, big potential for big plays for the Dolphins, as always. So, I mean, Tyreek got a little hurt. Was he just cramping? Was that right? He came right back in, I think.
Yeah, it looked like a hammy at first. He pulled up, but it was ended up just being some cramps. He was all right. He came back in, so they'll likely have all of their weapons outside of Devon A-Chain in this game.
I mean, if you eliminate Tyreek based upon the yards he's put up, then you can beat this team. So I think it all kind of rests on that. AJ Brown's playing really good. I mean, I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I hope.
I mean, certainly has the potential to. So model projection right now doesn't tell us anything. It's right on the nose with the Vegas spread. It has the Eagles at 2.45 points. So right up there with the Vegas spread at 2.5. The total is at 52 for my model. Right now, the Vegas total is 53. That doesn't tell us anything. So we really kind of have to dive into some of the underlying metrics in this game. Miami, 1st overall in offensive EPA. Philadelphia, 8th overall. Miami definitely has the better offense right now. There's no questions about it. Philadelphia, 15th overall in offensive EPA allowed. Miami's 21st overall in offensive EPA allowed. So both of them are kind of middle of the road. Philadelphia leans a little bit better, but especially at home. The Philadelphia's home performance, undoubtedly is better than most teams in the league, if not all. Their home field advantage truly is elite. That's up there with the Chiefs, with the Seahawks, with the Lions. So I think that really what ends up happening here is that Philadelphia gets the home field advantage and they end up pulling out a win. I think they're going to do what the Bills did and just go, big on big. They're going to put pressure on Tua, and they may bracket Tyreek Hill a little bit. And then run a little bit more zone on the back end to try and limit any one man coverage on Tyreek. So it certainly will be a steep task to try and limit this offense. But the thing is they don't necessarily have to limit them at some high degree. Philly can actually pace this Miami team. Miami, their defense has some leaky holes in the back. So I think that they take advantage of that. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to come off pissed. I think they're really angry. This is a get right situation for them and a chance to prove to the world that they are the superior team. And I think that's what they do. Eagles 2.5. I'm on it. I actually think you can get it 1.5 on some books, especially if you like to shop your lines. Your typical DraftKings and FanDuel doesn't have it, but it looks like it's on Circus Sports and other smaller books. So 1.5, if you can get it, might be the move. All right, man. This week is awesome because the Chargers and the Chiefs also play. We get so many good games. I mean, this is I had a hard time. So we like to go through games in terms of like highest excitement index. And man, there were a couple on here that rivaled each other. But Chargers go to Kansas City. Chargers play tonight, so we actually haven't seen their Week 6 game. This line could very well move. Chiefs are 5.5 on some books, but 6-point home favorites in Arrowhead. The point total is 52, right under the Dolphins and Philly total. But Chiefs, again, we mentioned when they're struggling on offense a little bit, the Chargers are the Chargers. They will continue to charge. They can be a great team, but I feel like they let the close ones slip away from them. They're dealing with some tough injuries, especially in Mike Williams, but they do get Austin Eckler back tonight, so hopefully their team can stay healthy. Barring anything crazy from tonight's game, Brendan, who do you like in this game, and why?
I think the Chargers did everything right with what they could do this season so far, keeping Eckler off and getting him healthy. They did lose Mike, but now they can incorporate Quentin Johnson a little bit more. And the Kellen Moore Bowl tonight, I just fully expect the Chargers to score 100,000 points. So at least that's what I want. So I think they're going to play well tonight. I think they will win tonight against Dallas. And I think that they're going to cover 6 against the Chiefs next week because they're fresher. They've got a lot of new pieces and a lot of good things to learn from this week's game tonight. And the Chiefs they haven't had their bye yet, and they're a little more tired than the Chargers are. I think the Chargers are going to cover that 6.
All right. You heard it. Now, I will say the model projections have the Chargers at +3. So the model likes the Chargers to cover. It still likes the Chiefs to win outright. Now, as in regards to the point total, it's around 48 in the model. So it's a little lower just due to the nature of the lack of scoring that the Chiefs have had. But the Chiefs defense has actually kind of stepped up in some big games here and there. So I think that we have to give credit where credit is due because the Chiefs defense has actually kept them in games where maybe other teams should have pulled away. Especially in games where the Chiefs offense didn't really show up like they usually do. Looking at some of the metrics, one thing we love to look at EPA. EPA is one of the most informative stats when looking at head-to-head matchups. Kansas City, 5th overall in offensive EPA. Chargers, 4th. Now, that is baked in with this week's game, so depending on the outcome of tonight, the Chargers could sway a little bit, but I wouldn't expect it to a whole lot. Now, Kansas City, they're 6th overall in the league in terms of EPA allowed. Chargers, 26th. So that's really the discrepancy that we see on the defensive side of the ball. Kansas City, they have a solid defense. It's at home. Chargers, they have a leaky defense, and it's mainly in the secondary. They kind of let teams pass all over them. So now I will say, so most of those metrics, or most of the Chargers defensive metrics, incorporate the absolute ass whipping that the Dolphins gave them in Week 1. That game just skews their numbers so horrifically bad. So if you take away that stuff, then you actually get a little bit cleaner numbers for the Chargers. But you can't do that. You have to include the numbers. You have to look at everything. in its overarching manner. Looking at some of the betting splits, 85% of the bets are on the Chargers right now. 77% of the money is on the Chargers right now. So some of those early bettors are getting the Chargers while they can. What's crazy is this number is actually at 5.5 on some books right now when I'm looking at it. So it's fluctuating 6, 5.5. Dude, I love the Chargers, man. We've been so high on the Chargers this year. And with the way that the Kansas City offense has been playing, I can't feel confident in the Chiefs right now. But I will take the Chiefs 5.5.
Oh,
Beer bet it on the board.
that's
I will
terrible.
take you right here.
That's horrible.
Sorry, man.
You're giving me 6 points to a team that I think could win. I'm gonna take that every day.
5.5.
Oh, we're doing it 5.5.
5.5.
Okay.
Hey, that's better for you than it is for me, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. Sure, it's your rules. It's just your playground. I'm playing on it.
Sorry.
Let's move it on.
Let's move it on. This next game, the more I look at it, the more I talk about it, I think I'm more excited for this game than I am the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Lions, the Detroit Lions, red hot Detroit Lions. They're throttling everybody. They go to the Ravens playing in Baltimore. Ravens are 2.5 point home favorites. Low point total here, 44.5 points. Ravens are playing some quiet, good football. They're having a lot of miscues here and there. They're not going to flash anybody with the wins that they've had. It's been good wins. They've been playing decently. But the Lions, man, they've just been throttling folks left and right. Their team is the most complete team in the league, arguably. Dan Campbell is one of the most exciting coaches in the league. Jared Goff is having a career year in this offense. They have more weapons on the offensive and defensive side of the ball than they've had in years. Do you think the Lions can pull out an underdog win in Baltimore?
Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. They got Jameson Williams back too now. Laporta's playing great. Amon-Ra's playing great. Dave Montgomery did go down, and he's been their bell cow. But I think they can win in multiple different ways, and I think that they're going to be able to win passing the ball against the Ravens. Now, the Ravens aren't some like little boy, and they're at home also, so you never know. But if you're giving me an underdog Lions, I'm going to take the Lions here until they fail me.
Okay. I respect it. Let's look at some of the numbers. 42% of the bets are on the Lions. 50% of the handle on the Lions. Pretty even split. So there's really nothing to take away from this. Not much in the betting splits that can really tell us anything crazy. Now, of course, naturally, we move on to the model. The model has the Detroit Lions by 1. Now, it does have a low scoring game. It actually has the point total of 40. Lower than the Vegas point total of 44.5, which I actually kind of believe. I think the key for the Ravens here at home is to kind of trust their defense to keep them in the game and then run. I think that the Ravens will want to throw the football. Again, Lamar is having a really great year in the air. Believe it or not, nobody will notice, but he's having a good year as a passer. But I think the key is they're going to want to run the football and they're going to want to throw some quick passes. The Lions' pass rush is really, really strong. So I think they're going to kind of limit their ability to get back there and mess with Lamar. We might see a little bit more design runs out of Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson. So I kind of think that this is going to be a slower pace game than everybody anticipates. But
hey, Dan Campbell gets his players up to play. He's a scary man. So
I will take the Ravens.
Okay.
2.5 at home.
Okay.
I think this is a battle that's won on the ground. I think it's going to be a slow-paced, hellacious game in Baltimore. In Baltimore. And I think the Baltimore crowd is going to get up in hype. I think this defense is going to get up in hype. And I think Roquan Smith is ready to just dominate. So I love the Ravens here, man. I think that, they're quietly putting up a great season, metrically speaking, on both sides of the football. If I could get these numbers to quit freaking out on me, go through them. Baltimore, 6th in the league in overall offensive EPA. Detroit, 12th. Now, if we scroll over to EPA allowed, second overall for the Baltimore Ravens, seventh overall for Detroit Lions. Man, both teams are really efficient on both sides of that football. I just like the Ravens defense better in this matchup here. At home, I think Ravens take the 2.5 point win. I think they win by a field goal at the last second by Justin Tucker. And the Ravens go on to prove their dominance.
I will say this, it's important to take a look at the weather because if it's because it's probably going to be cold up in Baltimore. And if it's raining, then my answer switches because if it is a ground on ground game without Montgomery, then I think the Ravens can pull it away. But if the weather's pretty outside, we have a ball game.
I just think I like the way. I think I like the idea of having the Ravens linebackers and their safeties up on Amon-Ra St. Brown, taking away some of his low routes from Jared Goff. I don't think they're going to give up any explosive plays to Jamison Williams like we saw last week. Without David Montgomery, it's going to be hard to establish a good ground game. They could get Jahmyr Gibbs back, but I don't know if he's ready to shoulder a full workload. And he's definitely not a guy who's going to go in there and bruise his way to 100 yards on 25 carries. So give me the Ravens. I think they're subtly going to be a team that shows out here. My only concern, and this is a pet peeve of mine, I need to get it off my chest. The Ravens, I despise that they do this. The moment that they get up in a game, they turn off the offense. They just shut it down. They're like, we're gonna cruise here. We're gonna run the clock out as much as we can. It could be in the second quarter and they could be up 10 and they're like, all right, let's run the clock out, calling it quits. They are the least aggressive team with a lead that I've ever seen in my life. And it always ends up being a close game. You know, like we saw that with the Titans. They were up by 15 at one point. They could have really put it together and stayed aggressive and really stretched that lead out, especially against the Titans defense that was horrible. But no, they let them get back in the game. I don't get it, but whatever. So
you feel better?
I do. I had to get that out of my system. I know the potential that the Ravens have, and it bothers me when coaching throws it away. But whatever. On to the next. We got another good matchup, and this one's subtle, and this team may get the break speed off of them, but it's still going to be fun because it's in a dome. 49ers go to Minnesota and play the Vikings at home in Minnesota. Vikings are a touchdown home underdog. It's full 7 points. The total is 45. 49ers, man, they're beat up, but they're angry. They're going to come in here looking for a win. They're going to blow off some steam against this Vikings team. Vikings coming off of an ugly win against the Bears, but a win's a win. Of course, they're without Justin Jefferson. We're going to see kind of the character of this team, and if they are willing to put together, at least attempt to finish out the rest of the season in good spirits, and stay competitive with everybody. But do you think that the 49ers can kind of scrap together, put a little bit of Band-Aids on their team here and there, come together in the Vikings and win by more than a touchdown?
I think this is a recency bias one that a lot of people will look at because of the way the 49ers just lost. Now, I said earlier that they were playing at the Browns in nasty weather. A lot of injuries happened. Couldn't get anything going. Brock Purdy can't play in the rain. But you said it. This game's in a dome, and the 49ers are undeniably a top 3 team on the offense and defensive side, regardless of who's playing because of their scheme. And I do not believe the Vikings are going to be able to run the ball at all. And it being in a domed Kirk game, like that's great and all, but the 49ers are still great on all facets of their defense. So I think the 49ers cover 7 here pretty easily. You're muted.
I think that I'm not going to say I have my pick, but I'm not going to say with any sort of conviction yet. I think that the overhits quietly in this game. I think that the overhits. I think that 45 was a low point total. I think I'm going to trust my model here. It's one of the largest, discrepancies that I see in terms of overall point totals. Vegas has it at 45. My model projections have it right around 51. So a full 6 points ahead of what they have now. Love the over in this game. I think the Vikings can still put it together and score on this 49ers defense at home in the dome. And the 49ers are going to score because Shanahan's won.
Yeah.
They're calling the shots. I mean, we look at the numbers. San Francisco is the third most efficient teams in terms of offensive EPA in the league. Minnesota, 15th overall. So middle of the road, but they're still solid. I think they'll be fine. They still have weapons outside of Justin Jefferson. They love to stretch the field. They're 12th overall in the league in yards per passing attempt. We go on the defensive side of the ball. The Vikings defense is really not good, but they played better than what I anticipated them to. They're 14th in the league in overall offensive EPA allowed. But the 49ers, of course, one of the league best. They're 4th overall in overall offensive EPA allowed. So, I see why Vegas totaled it this way, but I like it in a dome. I like Vikings coming off of a win. Maybe their morale is boosted a little bit. 49ers, I think they're, going to kind of look at this game as like rest everybody game. I just don't see the 49ers really getting up for this game and coming out and just dominating on all facets of the ball. So now as for the point spread, sure. I'm going to take the 49ers. I think they can cover by 7. I think this number actually drops to
Probably.
6.
Yeah.
So I can't be entirely sure, but I think it does. However, if you look at the betting splits that I wrote down, 80% of the bets are on the 49ers. 90% of the handle is on the 49ers. I expect this to change. I really do. I think we're going to see some more casuals coming in. They were the most bet team on in week 6 at 9.5. So I think people are going to be like, oh, this team sucks. They're going to bet the Vikings, and then we're going to see that numbers team down. If you can get it at 6.5, that's what I'm going to do. But I still like the Vikings to be able to put up points in a game like this. But I think Shanahan can still get this 7 nonetheless. So
I would expect a large Ayuk game, especially like if Debo's out. I mean, the targets are limited for the players. So
certainly,
I mean, I think that he'll be able to separate from that secondary.
Definitely, should be a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Browns go to the Colts. We just talked about the Colts earlier on the show, if you're watching the full extended show. But Colts, surprisingly here, they're 2.5 point home favorites. The point total is a meager 40.5. So low point total. The point spread is at a lower margin than what I had anticipated, but I expect this number to change. Can't be with certain. It's still just sitting there at 2.5 early in the week. Deshaun Watson, I don't know if he'll be back or not. Now, I'm getting the feeling that he will. I think there's a little bit of frustration out of Kevin Stefanski and the rest of the Browns organization that he's not playing, considering that it's just really a bone contusion, like a bone bruise pretty much. Yeah, there you go. And I think he just got his feelings hurt a little bit because he kind of sucks dick right now. But I expect him to be back, and I expect him, to come back in well rested, fully healthy, getting ready for a big game like this. Again, we said this earlier. The Colts are actually a really good football team. They got beat by the Jaguars pretty bad. There were some unlucky breaks, and Gardner Minshew had a uncharacteristically poor game at the quarterback position. He's normally a really good game manager and can operate the offense at a high level, not an elite level. Didn't say that, but he is definitely among the league's best backups. He could probably start for some other teams. But with that being said, this is a home game for the Colts, which bodes well. The Browns are still banged up. We mentioned it earlier. They did just beat the 49ers, one of the best teams in the league. But they're still banged up. 2 of their all-pro offensive linemen are hurt. Obviously, Nick Chubb is gone. Question is, will Deshaun Watson come back and play? I don't know. Can't be for certain because I thought he was going to play last week. I know nothing. But what I can tell you is that 84% of the tickets and 84% of the handle is on the Browns -2. I think the public is coming in heavy for the Browns, especially after their big win against the 49ers. Could we be seeing some recency bias, Brendan? Who do you like
We
in this
could.
game?
I mean, if it pumps up to 3.5, then that's a whole different ballgame. But we can't contradict ourselves, us talking about the Browns defense at the beginning of the show. And I think that continues. And I think that Anthony Richardson not being the Colts quarterback, it changes. I mean, I'm not saying it makes them any better or worse, the team, but it just changes the way the team's going to operate. And it's at the Colts, but it's inside. And I think the Browns are going to be able to handle this one at 2.5. 3.5 is a little different, but I think barring Deshaun comes back either way, I think they'll be able to put enough together to cover that spread. I mean, Kareem Hunt is playing more. He's playing a little bit better. And they got 4 back. So we'll just see. Amari Cooper played all right last week, so they should be all right. But it just beat the 49ers.
Yeah.
So, this the 49ers versus the Colts. It's night and day.
Yeah. I mean, this one is bewildering to me. And like you said, I don't want to contradict myself. I think the Browns are a great team. We've been saying this since the offseason. If you watched our off-season shows and looked at our win totals, we were on the Browns. No questions. Like we knew that this team would be a double-digit win team. But I will say, and if you're a regular of our show, Salalytics, you know that the model has a Colts problem. It really does. It loves the Colts. And it actually has the Colts winning by a point this week. A low-scoring game has the Colts scoring 20, the Browns scoring 19. So kind of right on the nose with the point total there a little bit. But it likes the Colts to win outright at home. I think it attributes a little bit to the Colts at home. And one thing I'm seeing, and one thing it saw from this past week, is the lack of efficiency on the offensive side of the ball. Believe it or not, this Kevin Stefanski-led offense is 31st overall in terms of offensive EPA. They've really struggled to be efficient on the ground and in the air. And I think that's what the model's seeing. It's just not a well-oiled machine on the offensive side of the ball. They are still trying to figure a lot of stuff out. One thing they do well is rush the ball. They're 4th overall in the league in terms of rushing yards, but in passing yards, 30th in the league. Total yards, 18th in the league. So total points, 21st in the league. I mean, they're trying to air it out. That's the thing, is they're having not much success airing the ball out. They're 6th overall in the league in air yards. So they're heaving the ball downfield, but they're not connecting. And I think that if the Colts can bottle this offense up, like most other teams have in the past, they have a fighting chance. And I like the Colts to cover 2.5. I like the Colts to win outright. I think they do it, man. I think they do it. I think they do it.
I think it also, one thing to say is that teams have typically pieced the Colts up passing the ball wise. So, like, if Deshaun is back, then because PJ Walker's not a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. So, if Deshaun is back, I mean, that would change. That would change things. I'm going to stay with my Browns.
Yeah, I mean, no, you should. That's probably the right pick, but I'm a psycho on here. I like to trust the model, and I really do think they could do it.
I think you have a Colts problem. I don't think
maybe I do. Maybe it's not the model. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one that has a Colts problem.
Hey,
Jesus,
someone put the numbers in.
Yeah,
someone put them in.
Hey, I don't see them. I just pull them from the API. Anyways, now we go on the defense side of the ball. I don't have to tell anybody this. The Browns have the best defense in the league. They're number 1 in overall EPA allowed in the league. That's not news to anybody. The Colts quietly have one of the better defenses, though. Middle of the pack, slightly better than average. 15th overall in offensive EPA allowed. So the Colts, if they can put it together and they can limit this Browns offense, which I think they can, I think they win. I think if Gardner Minshew comes out and plays a much better game than they did, and especially in the Dome, at home, in Indy, and I think Shane Steichen pulls out something crazy, and I think they get it done. Are we locking it? Are we doing this? Are we doing a beer bet?
I mean, you've been disagreeing with me all night, so.
Okay, fine. Let's do it. Why not?
Let's just have like 7 beer bets.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Getting to the Thursday night matchup preview. Jaguars playing really good football. Go to the Saints, coming off a disappointing loss at the Texans. Saints are also playing some pretty good football. I think they're just catching a few unlucky breaks. I hate them though. But again, I'm a Falcons fan, so take my pick with a grain of salt. I'm a little bit biased against the Saints. But nonetheless, Saints are 1.5 point home underdogs against the Jaguars. Low point total, 40.5 points right now as it's set. We could see this line change. Obviously, it is early in the week, but we're going to try and snipe some points while we can. This is actually steaming up to 2.5. So I will, the line's moving. So I figured this would be the case.
With T-Law's injury, it's going higher?
It's favored in the Saints because of T-Law's injury. Now?
Okay.
Yeah. So we have to really be careful in discerning who's going to be playing quarterback for the Jaguars. What's the situation going to be like? Is this going to hinder Trevor Lawrence's running capabilities? Like, will he be able to scramble? Will he not? This really kind of boils all into it. And so I think we're seeing that line move more and more in the Saints' favor. And we see that in the money. We see 61% of the tickets on the Saints, 67% of the money of the handle coming in on the Saints. So I would not be surprised if this team's up to Saints -3 when it's all said and done. So with that being said, what are you trusting here? Are you going to trust that Travis? I keep saying Travis. I got Travis Kelce on my mind, talking about him earlier. Do you think Trevor Lawrence plays and comes out and does well? Or do you think he sits out on the short week and they save him for later? And do you think the Saints cover? Tell me why.
I don't think they have the luxury of sitting him out if he can play. Personally, so I think he's gonna play. I've got 3 on DK right here. So at 3, I'm taking the Jags +3.
So it has moved up in favor of the Saints to 3. So that's been a quick move because
that's really quick.
It is 6:18 on Monday evening, early this week, and I did these show notes early this morning. So within 12 hours, we've seen the splits move completely in favor, nearly 4 points in favor of the Saints, all because of the Trevor Lawrence news.
Yeah.
Now, do we think Trevor Lawrence is worth 4.5 points?
No. But
I agree with you. But I think that the Jaguars have a really, really good complete team. And no matter who they put back there, they can come in and win. And the only thing is that it's in New Orleans and it's in prime time.
That's it is difficult to play in New Orleans. Who's the Jags' backup quarterback? That's the real question. I'm looking at it. Sorry. CJ Beathard.
No, I thought it was Mike Glennon for some reason.
But no, I mean, I'll take I think the Jags are better. Like neutral side, I would take the Jags. At home, I'd take the Jags. So I'll take the Jags +3. Christian Kirk's playing a lot better. So he's got Kirk and Ridley and Ingram and ETN to run the ball. Defenses play pretty well. The Saints are not doing anything crazy.
Yeah.
So
the projections actually have this game as a pick'em. So, I think that's what Vegas sees. It's just a matter of they're moving the line depending on the injury and depending on the vibes. And I think they're moving it also in favor of Saints having the home field advantage against a backup quarterback. So this really kind of hinders my pick because if Trevor Lawrence plays, man, I really like the Jags, especially if they can get 3.5. If they can get 3.5,
that'd be wild.
I love the Jags to catch that. They'll be down, but this will be kind of an ugly game. But I think that the Jags can at least lose by a field goal, if not win outright.
Yeah,
I still think Trevor Lawrence, if he can't run, his arm talent is like good enough to keep him in this game. So,
well, I would expect them. I would expect them to run lower A dot routes just to get the ball out of his hand.
Yeah,
if they're worried about it, and doing that should be fine with Ridley and Kirk running drags over the middle. I think it should be fine. So
yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And again, we mentioned this earlier in the show. If you're watching the full version of this, but offensive EPA allowed. Jags are 9th overall in the league. Saints are 5th. They're actually playing really well on the defensive side of the ball. So that's kind of what we're seeing here.
I always do.
And I think that's what the model is seeing as well. I think they're seeing really good defensive performance. And I think that's why we see such a low point total in New Orleans. That's a hard place to put up points. So both of these teams like to play relatively quick. They're top 8 in the league in total offensive plays per game. So, I can't say with any conviction that I think the total is going to go over, despite both defenses being solid. But I think if Trevor Lawrence plays, we could see some more scoring, especially in the fourth quarter. Things can get crazy. But, these teams struggle on the efficiency side. Jags 18th overall in the league in terms of offensive EPA. Saints 24th in the league in terms of offensive EPA. So they have some stuff that they can fine tune. The Jags offense definitely gets the nod here. Even if Trevor Lawrence can't run, he can still air it out to a couple of really good receivers on the perimeter. And Jags, if I can get him +3, I'm taking him. If I can get him +3.5 later in the week, I'm going to snipe him. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to wait later in the week and see if more and more money steams in on the Saints. It doesn't look like it's going to go back in the Jags' favor anytime soon, considering that the majority of the handle is going on the Saints. So going to leave that there. Going to be a fun one. Good Thursday night game finally. All right. Last game on the big game breakdown show that I wanted to talk about, and I know this is biased. I apologize. But the reason I have this is because this does have a ton of divisional implications. The Falcons go to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Bucks are 2.5-point home favorites. They just got creamed by the Lions. Total is 40 points, really low point total, as expected. Honestly, both of these teams play at a really, really slow pace. I don't expect any sort of offensive fireworks in this game. It's going to be kind of a grinder. The Bucks get the nod here, I think, because it is home field advantage for them. Both defenses are steadily putting on, having a really solid year. Now, again, I mentioned it. Big divisional implications as the winner of this takes the outright lead in that respective division. Do you think the Falcons can clean up and go in there and take a win away from the Bucks, or do you think the Bucks clean up and win a home game and take sole ownership of that division?
I think the Bucks will win. I'm not real sure about the spread. I said a couple weeks ago, but honestly, home field just means a lot. It really does. And I think the Bucks will go ahead and get it done. The Falcons are just almost there, like real close. But they just can't get over that hump. And you might come around, as I said that, and say this is the game they're going to get over that hump. But I'm just going to have to stay with the Bucks on it. And hopefully Kyle Pitts continues to play good. So the Bucks win.
Yeah. I mean, we know that these teams struggle a bit on the offensive side of the ball. That's no surprise. So I think both offenses aren't really going to surprise anybody. Now, where things really get interesting is both defenses, I said this, are putting on a great year. Atlanta, 12th overall in the league in terms of offensive EPA allowed. Bucks, 11th overall in the league in offensive EPA allowed. Atlanta, 12th overall in total points allowed. The Bucks, 8th overall. Total yards per game allowed. Atlanta, 2nd in the league. Bucks, 13th in the league. So, really, again, this is going to be a defensive bout, and it's really going to come down to, I think, coaching. And this really you got to ask yourself, who do you think has the better coaching staff? Who do you think can really take sole ownership of this game and kind of play the game of wits with the other sideline? And I will tell you, the model projections do have the Falcons winning by 2.5. It thinks the Falcons should be favored by 2.5. But I understand why people are already pouring in on the Bucks. If we look at the betting splits, 72% of the bets are on the Bucks. 90% of the handle is on the Bucks. The Bucks can play some good football. It's really, again, kind of lays on Baker's shoulders. If he makes a couple better throws in the game against the Lions, it's definitely a much more competitive game. But they're both defenses are capable of keeping both of these teams in a game, hands down. And I think due to the nature of the pace of play on both teams, it's going to be close regardless. You know, it may feel like Tampa Bay is winning by a lot. It may feel like Atlanta is winning by a lot. But in the grand scheme of things, with the way these teams play, it's going to be a low margin. And again, I've said it before, I'm a Falcons fan. So my pick means nothing. Of course, I'm taking the Falcons. I'm betting the Falcons all day. I'm going to ride the model, and I'm going to trust this offense to get back on track. I think they have better weapons than the Bucks. You know, you think about it, they have Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan, Tyler Algier, Cordell Patterson, Jonnu Smith, and I get it. The Bucks have Godwin, Evans, and Baker, but after that, you know, Rashad White, RB1.
No.
Offensive line, really not that great in the grand scheme of things. So I think the Falcons' trenches are better. And I think that's where the Falcons come into play. And that's why they win this game outright. But again, I'm a Falcons fan. Take that with a grain of salt. But I'll just leave that there.
Well, you know what? I'll fold because I won't fold the Bucks winning. I'll instead take Falcons plus 2.5 because of that low scoring close game that you're talking about, which I agree with you on that. So we'll change to Falcons plus 2.5. Not saying they're going to win.
Rise up, baby. Love it. I love it. Gosh, I hope we win so bad. We need the division. We need the division. Also, we need this because I was on the Falcons heavy in the offseason to make the playoffs. And they can. They will. They will. Manifesting. All right, hey, let's do a bit of quick shot here and finish off the rest of the slate. Brendan, Steelers go to the Rams. Rams are 3-point home favorites. Point total is 42.5. Who do you like in this game and why?
Yeah, so you always bet on your Falcons. I always bet against the Steelers. So I'm going to go with – I mean, the Steelers defense is great, but I think that Cooper Kupp keeps ramping up and the Rams are going to get it done -3.
Yep, I agree. Rams -3. The model has them winning by 6. Riding with the model. Here we go. Buffalo go to the Patriots. The Patriots suck, dude. They're not good. They're not a good football team. I think they're tanking. Belichick.
He's got
I don't even know. I don't even know what to think of him anymore. He's lost my respect. I will say that. Buffalo goes to New England. New England is 9-point home underdogs. One of the biggest point spreads that Gillette has seen in the past 2 decades. Crazy. Okay. Buffalo or Patriots?
I just don't think the Patriots are going to be able to score at all.
I don't either.
So it's really high ways. Like, it's a really big home dog, but I have to go Buffalo -9 because I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to score.
Yeah, I'll see. Honestly, if you're wanting to bet on this game, wait and see if the number comes down at all and then snipe it. Raiders go to the Bears. Bears are +1 home underdogs, but Justin Fields is doubtful for Saturday. But so is Jimmy Garoppolo. So we're going to see a battle of backup QBs.
Dude, Badgett is a dog. Oh, I saw a documentary on him on Twitter preseason. He is an absolute animal, and he just got thrown into a game, his first NFL game, in the middle of a game. I think the Bears win here at home, and I think that on the shoulders of Badgett, I think that's how you say his name. I don't know, but I like the Bears here,
dude,
to beat the Raiders.
He threw a really bad pick, but he was hit as he threw.
He's a dog.
Outside of that, he played kind of well.
He's a beast.
Yeah,
he's like actually, well. Yeah.
So, okay, leaving it at that. Projections have Bears winning by 1 point. I'm taking the Bears in this one at home. Commanders go to the Giants. Giants are +2 home favorites. Are you going to keep riding out your Commanders? Or are you going to ride with the Giants?
Dude, how do I ride the Giants? Just how? Commanders -2.
Fair enough.
You could say it either way, but realistically, how can you ride the Giants? Like that's.
I'll take the Giants. I'll take them +2.
+2. All right.
Yeah. Projections like them. Packers go to the Broncos. Broncos are +2 home underdogs. They look really disgusting. I'm not going to lie. Future's looking bleak for Russell Wilson. Packers coming off of a bye. Do you think they can go into the Mile High City and take this game outright? Or do you think the Broncos cover that 2-point spread?
Jerry Jeudy he's just a guy. He's a Jag. I'm going to go with the Packers here.
He's a Jag.
He's just a Jag.
You are a Jag. All right. I'll go Packers. That's what I had originally. Cardinals at Seahawks. Seahawks are 7.5-point home favorites. Can Arrow Dobbs come in there and steal some points and the 12th man? Or do you think the Seahawks kind of tune this game up a little bit?
I think he can steal points. I think Geno's still a little bit hurt. DK is actually kind of hurt. He was playing out there, but he looked like he was hurting.
Yeah.
I think the Cardinals will cover 7.5. But I think the Seahawks will still win.
Same. So my projections have the Seahawks winning by 4.5 rather than 7.5. I think Arrow Dobbs can backdoor cover this in a divisional game.
Dobbs.
The Seahawks may be winning by 10 or 14 during the fourth quarter, but again, I think Dobbs will backdoor cover this, and I think the Cardinals keep it relatively competitive in a divisional matchup like this. That wraps it up for this week's show. Again, NFL Week 7. We appreciate you guys being here. We will be back here for NFL Week. Make sure to like, subscribe, and drop your favorite picks. Hit us up. Again, thanks for being here. We'll talk to you next week.